Hello, BookTube, and welcome back to my chapter-by-chapter read-through of J.R.R. Tolkien's masterpiece, The Lord of the Rings. I started in midships. I started with the Two Towers, moved on to The Return of the King. Now we've come around to the Fellowship of the Ring, and we are now at the chapter Lothlorien, which starts with stark tragedy. Our fellowship has set out from Rivendell to bear the one ring of power to the gap of Mount Doom and destroy it, so that it can never fall again into the possession of the Dark Lord Sauron. They've set out with just their pony, with the idea that they would cross the mountains and go south to the great kingdom of Gondor, which is right across the road from Mordor, and then make their plans from there as to how they were going to get this done. And that fellowship was led by the wizard Gandalf the Grey. And in the last chapter, the bridge at Khazad-dûm, he falls into an endless chasm while fighting a Balrog, a gigantic mystical creature named a Balrog, and is gone. Fellowship does make it out of the darkness of Moria, the orc-infested darkness of Moria. They do make it out into the wilderness, and as grief-stricken as they are, Aragorn, their now de facto leader, tells them, we have to be far away from here by sunset. There are orcs everywhere here. They might not come out during the day, but we will be killed if we stay. We must keep moving. We cannot afford to just stand here and cry. Tolkien tells us that some members of the Fellowship wept aloud. Probably the hobbits, but maybe Legolas as well. But heartless as it is, they do move on. And it's rough. It's rough on the hobbits. Sam, during the battle at the Chamber of Marzabul, takes a cut to the head. That's pretty nasty. And Frodo, of course, is speared with a gigantic direct spear thrust. He's not killed because he's wearing Bilbo's mithril coat, which turns all harm. But he still felt the impact. It still badly bruised him. Eventually, Gimli makes it known to everybody else that eventually it's noticed that the hobbits are lagging behind, and Aragorn recalls himself. He's been in emergency mode. He goes back and tends to their cuts. The hands of the king are the hands of a healer. He tends to their cuts as well as he can, removes most of the danger and the pain of them, but he still advises them we have to keep going. They are making for the Golden Wood. They are making for Lothlorien, another elvish stronghold, although we don't learn much about it from Aragorn, from his plans. The company rests for a bit, but they keep going. They know that pursuit will not be far behind. They aren't seeing any direct hint of that, but they know that they have to get at least under the protection of the trees and hope for the best. And they do. Soon they do. Soon they are under the very outskirts of Lothlorien. And soon after that, they are met by a party of elves that live there. And that warn them to go no further. These elves are not just tourists; they are in the service of the Lady of the Golden Wood. They're in the service of Galadriel and her lord, and are tasked with keeping outsiders out. But they have received word ahead of time. All of those messengers that Elrond sent out when they were in Rivendell, some of those messages have come to Lothlorien. They've received messages ahead of time and have favorably disposed of them. You may encounter these wayfarers. Help them if you can. And they can. They give all of our heroes calm night's sleep way up in the trees. But they also are aware of the urgency. A massive party of orcs, 100 orcs, well-armed, well-organized, has come right into the border of the trees, traipsed over the brooks that now feel defiled. And the elves that are escorting our heroes are only a handful. There are only 3 or 4 of them, so they can't take on this army by themselves. So something has to be done. Those orcs will be killed. They will, as our guide says, they will never leave Lothlorien. But it's serious. It's a serious thing. So proper security precautions have to be taken. Our heroes have to be blindfolded. At first, the elves are perfectly okay because Legolas is one of their own kindred. Aragorn is well known in Lothlorien, to put it mildly. At first, they just insist that Gimli the dwarf be blindfolded, because no dwarf has been in Lothlorien since the days of Durin. And Gimli refuses and says, absolutely not. I will not go blindfolded like a thief or a beggar. In my own country, I'm well known as a man of honor. If you won't let me walk in your own country as a free man, then I'll leave and take my chances in the wilderness by myself. And they tell him, not only can you not go forward without your eyes covered, but you can't leave either. There are sentries now behind you that will not let you leave. You've seen too much, is basically what they tell him. It could come to blows. weapons are drawn. But Aragorn steps in and says, well, this doesn't do us any good. Infighting doesn't do us any good. In fact, one of their elf guides says something that Elrond has also said, and Gandalf. There's a common thread here, a common caution against infighting. Haldir says, indeed, in nothing is the power of the Dark Lord more clearly shown than in the estrangement that divides all those who still oppose him. And that is something that is already been said at the Council of Elrond, that always in our dealings with the Dark Tower, treason has been our biggest enemy. So Aragorn's proposal is that all of the Fellowship be blindfolded, which Legolas doesn't like, but that's the way it goes. They eventually make their way into Lothlorien and have their blindfolds removed, now that they no longer know the roads of entry. And all throughout this chapter, Tolkien is at his best describing the natural world. Even before we get there, long before, when our heroes are just heading into the various dells and slopes of the wilderness outside of the Dimrill Dale, even then, Tolkien's words are amazing. Just amazing. Every once in a while, he lets himself go with nature description. He's particularly good at it. But once they get into the sacred wood of Lothlorien, something is different. Something is very different. The difference, of course, is Galadriel, who's using the power of her one elvish great ring to hold back the ravages of time. She has made Lothlorien into a kind of bubble, a kind of preserved space where the Elder Days can still live on. As Sam puts it, it feels like I'm walking around in a song, if you know what I mean. And I want to read you Frodo's reaction. One of many, but I'll just read you one paragraph. I don't want to get too tired of this from here. The others cast themselves down upon the fragrant grass, that is, to sleep. But Frodo stood a while, still lost in wonder. It seemed to him that he had stepped through a high window that looked on a vanished world. A light was upon it, for which his language had no name. All that he saw was shapely, but the shapes seemed at once clear-cut, as if they had been first conceived and drawn at the uncovering of his eyes, and ancient as if they had endured forever. He saw no color but those he knew, gold and white and blue and green, but they were fresh and poignant, as if he had at that moment first perceived them and made for them names new and wonderful. In winter here, no heart could mourn for summer or for spring. No blemish or sickness or deformity could be seen in anything that grew upon the earth. On the land of Lorien there was no stain. That's a wonder. It's a spell of a kind. This is the sort of thing that the elves are always confused when mortal people say this is magic, because this is just the way they are. And this is the work of Galadriel, who we do not meet in this chapter. This is our characters are in Lothlorien, which is her realm, but we haven't met her yet. It's another great little gesture on Tolkien's part to build expectation for this character. He always does it. He always does it with a character that he wants a little fanfare for. And he wants a little fanfare for Galadriel. I think that was late in the coming for his drafting of this book, but it really works. She is one of the most memorable characters in the book, and we meet her next time. So that is a chapter called Lothlorien. Our characters have somehow managed to go on without Gandalf. As Aragorn puts it rather starkly, we must do without hope. We must go on without hope. Gandalf was our hope, and he's gone. We still have a mission, so we'll still do it to the best of our ability. So we'll move on and meet the elves of Lothlorien next time. So I'll wrap this up for now. We'll see you then. Thank you, BookTube.